What's up? So a lot of you guys been asking about how to use the AI behavior tree stuff. So I'm literally going to go through the documentation here, behavior tree quick start guide. I'm going to put a link in the description. If I forget it, just let me know and I'll put it in there. So this will give you a more of a video format to the documentation. I know like the documentation looks like a lot, a little bit overwhelming. So having it in a video form and doing a side-by-side video while you're doing it might make it a little bit easier for people. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. So the description of what's going to happen in this video. So we're going to create an AI that responds to seeing the player and then chases them. And then when it loses sight of the player, then it's going to give up chasing and then randomly patrol around the area. And then when it sees the player, it's going to chase them again. And what that hopefully will do for you is give you a little bit of an understanding with the systems for AI controllers, blackboards, behavior trees, behavior tree services, behavior tree decorators, and behavior tree tasks. And those are all highlighted in the documentation. I'm going to stop bringing up the documentation now. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is the project setup. So this is just going to be the setup for creating the AI and all these other things. So the first thing you want to do is probably create a separate folder for your AI. So I'm just going to call that folder AI, I guess. I'm just going to call it AI. So it's going to be AI. And then you're going to want to take, let's see, blueprints, this BP third person character, and we're going to make a copy into the AI folder. So I'm just going to drag it here. And then there's an option for copy here. You don't want to do move here. You're going to do copy here because we actually want to create a separate mannequin for the AI. So I'm going to copy here. And then in the AI folder, we have, it's still called BP third person. We're going to change that. All right, so the first thing, aside from creating this BP third person here, we're going to do is actually create a new blueprint class of the AI controller variety. So all you have to do is type in here and type in AI controller. AI controller here, and we're going to select this, and then we're going to name it whatever we want to do. So we're just going to call it AI underscore controller. Okay, so it's gonna, I'm just calling it AI controller, and I will call this, actually they call it enemy controller, sorry. They call it enemy controller, so I'm gonna call it enemy controller. Enemy controller. And then I'm going to call this the enemy. So this is going to be the enemy underscore character. So we have our enemy controller and we have our enemy character. So now let me go into the enemy character. And the first thing we're going to do is delete all of everything in here. Don't need any of it. Delete all of it. All right, compile and then save it. And then we're going to go into character movement here. My thing's a little bit hiding, so I'm just going to pull this out here. And what we're going to change is the max walk speed. Instead of it being 500, we're going to change it to 120. And what this is going to, it changes the units. Whatever, that is the equivalent. So what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to have the patrol speed that we're going to have is going to be 120 when it's just patrolling around. So it's just going to be its walk speed. So when not chasing the player, it's going to be walking at this speed. All right, so now go into the class defaults here, and then where it's on the side here, where it specifies where the class we're going to be using, we're going to set this to, so let's find it. It should be under something. Maybe I should look it up. Goodness gracious, this goes on for miles. All right, let me just look this up. So controller, yeah, the AI controller class. We're going to change this to the AI controller class that we're creating. So it's going to be AI, enemy underscore controller, because that's the one that we just created. All right, so now that we've done that, we're going to go and we're going to drag this into the world. We have dragged it into the world. And by the way, if you're going to have it so that the character spawns into the world, you're going to need to change the auto possess AI thing, auto possess AI thing, to be placed in world or spawned or just spawned. But if you're going to have it spawn into the world, you probably want to either have one of these two. Otherwise, it's not going, the AI controller is not going to take control of the character, and it's not going to be able to do anything within the behavior tree. So yeah, pick one of these two if you're going to do it. I'm just going to show it, but I mean, I'm not going to have it spawn probably. All right, and now we want to grab the nav mesh bounds volume, because that allows you to move within the space. So nav mesh bounds volume. And I am just going to set the settings to encompass the entire area. So let me drag this because it's hiding. And let me lock this here. Let me reset this location here, and I'm just gonna make it 100. I'm just trying to encompass the entire area. So locking this allows it to change all these different values simultaneously. So if you want them all to scale together, you just lock this and you press enter, and it should make all the other values 100. Okay, pressing the P button here. So I hit P, and then you can see all the area that the AI can move to. All right, part 2, the Blackboard setup. So the Blackboard essentially is the brain of the AI. So what we're going to do is we're going to input keys that we're going to use to keep track of the player, have a line of sight to the player, and have a location for it to, the AI to move to and patrol when it's not chasing the player. So what we're going to do here is we're going to first right click here and go over artificial intelligence, click on Blackboard. And what we're just going to have in here is whatever name, so BB for Blackboard, and then I'm just going to put in enemy here, enemy. So we have this, we're just going to double click on it so we can open it up. And here you can see two things. You have the Blackboard and the Blackboard details. So here where it says the new keys, you can click this and you can add a key of all these different things, right? Booleans, classes, enums, floats, integers, names and objects, all of those things. So what you have here is a way of creating keys, which are going to be the variables that you're going to be using. And then you also have on the right side ways to specify what those keys do. So if I click on this, you can now change the parameters of these keys. For this key right here, we're going to click on it. And then we're going to go over to the right side here and we're going to rename this stuff. So this is going to be enemy actor. And then if you drop down the arrow here, you have the base class, which is actor, which is actually what we want. So we're just going to leave that alone. And then we can add another key here. It's going to be Boolean. And I'm going to name it has line of okay, I'll just do it like that, of sight. So has line of sight. I like to add a question mark at the end just to show it's a Boolean. You can name it however you like. So we have it as line of sight, and then we have the key type is Boolean, and that's exactly what we want. So this is just to determine whether it's true or false that this actor is going to have line of sight of the character. So the next thing we're going to do is create a patrol location. So I'm going to want to get a vector for this. So under this vector key, I'm going to name it. I did not highlight that for whatever reason. Okay. Patrol location. Patrol location type vector. Exactly what I want. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep track of a location in the level where the AI can move when it's not chasing the player. All right, part 3. We're going to mess with the behavior tree layout. So first thing we're going to want to do is get our behavior tree. So let me just go here. All right, so let me grab here and then go into our animation, artificial intelligence, and click on the behavior tree. And behavior tree, so I'm going to call it BT underscore enemy. I'm going to double click on this. And now we have this empty looking place with just one little node in the center that says root. The behavior tree consists of three panels. You have the behavior tree here, which is this open spot. Then you have the details panel over here. Then you have the Blackboard with all of the keys that we created for the behavior tree. And because this Blackboard that we created is the only one that we've made, and there's no other ones, it's the automatic default for this behavior tree. Because otherwise you would have to go in here and you would have to pick specifically the Blackboard that we just created. But since it's the only one, it automatically puts it in there for us, which is pretty nice. So now off of this root, if you drag off of this thing, you'll see 3 different options here. And I'm going to go over them real quick. So for one thing, the order in which you place everything is very important because it reads from left to right, top to bottom. And I'll show you what I mean about that later when I have more nodes. I'll explain it later. But right now I'm just going to go over like the descriptions of these things, and I'm just going to read them because this thing can explain it a lot better than me. So it executes branches from left to right. Okay, everything does, but and is typically used to select between subtrees. This is for the selector. Sorry, I didn't mention that. This is a description for the selector. Selectors stop moving between subtrees when they find a subtree they successfully execute. For example, if the AI is successfully chasing the player, it will stay in that branch until its execution is finished. Then go up to the selector's parent composites to continue the decision flow. The sequence here executes branches from left to right, of course, and is more commonly used to execute a series of children in order. Unlike selectors, the sequence continues to execute its children until it reaches a node that fails. And that's really the important difference between the two. For example, if we had a sequence to move to the player, check if they are in range, then rotate and attack. If they are in range portion failed, the rotate and attack actions will not be performed. And then the simple parallel, which I don't use very much. The simple has 2 connections. The first one is the main task, and it can only be assigned to a task node, meaning no composites. The second connection is the activity that's supposed to be executed while the main task is still running, depending on the properties. A simple parallel may finish as soon as the main task finishes, or waits for the background branch to finish as well. So, what we're going to create here is we are going to create a selector. And a good way to keep track of everything, because it's going to get really confusing if you don't have anything named, is to change the names to these things. So I'm just going to call this AI root. And it will be the root of this graph. Well, we have a root of this graph. This is going to be where everything stems off of. So now let's drag off of the selector, and we're going to drag off and create a sequence node. And this sequence node is going to be our chase player. And then we're going to create another sequence node, and that's going to be our patrol. I don't know why I typed patrol in there. So I have sequence in there, and then rename it to patrol. All right, so now that I have multiple different nodes here, you can see the numbers here. And this is the order at which they're going to be used. So you'll see that because this one is on the left, it has a 1 there. So if I switch this to the other side, you'll see that it changes to a 2. If I change this to the other side of the thing, this is what I was talking about. The order or the way in which you place things are very important when it comes to this graph, because it will execute things in the order of left to right and up to down. So the numbers here are your orders of operation. So you'll see exactly with the numbers on how far down the line of priority it is. 0 being the highest, then 1, 2. So you'll see that the child branches of this are also going to execute in the same way. So should these child branches fail, it's going to stop executing and will fail all the way back up to the tree, and then it's going to go back down the tree. For example, if the chase player failed, then it would return back to the AI root before going to the patrol again. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in a wait here. So let me add a wait. And as you can see for yourself, let me make this 1 second instead. 5 seconds is kind of a long wait time. So as you can see from here, this is purple, right? And the purple indicates that it is a task node. So these don't actually do anything until you have task nodes attached to them. This is just ways of having those tasks do things. So this isn't doing anything right now. So let me add something here, and I'm going to have it rotate to face BB entry. And what this BB entry does is it makes it so that whoever's running this behavior tree will face towards, in this case, I'm seeing enemy actor. So that's our Blackboard key in here right now, enemy actor, aka it's going to be the player. And the reason that it's the enemy actor that it's selected is it because it filters for the actor Blackboard variable, and it was just happened to be the first one on the list. So you can change the precision here. What this does here, maybe it has a description. It essentially just changes the success condition range. So right now, I'm guessing that's in degrees, right? Yeah, so right now the precision right now is in around 10 degrees. I'm going to leave it for now. We can see how it looks. But if you want to reduce the amount of degree difference to which it needs to turn to the player, like you want it to be maybe more of a sharper turn or maybe less of a sharp turn, you can change the degree here if you want to. As well as you can change the node name itself here if you don't want to be called rotate to BB entry. So now I'm going to show you how to create our own personal tasks that we create ourselves. So if you click on new task, you're going to just name it whatever you want. In this case, we're going to name it BTT underscore chase player. Chase player. And press enter here. So we created our BTT chase player, and we're in it right now. This is the event graph. All right, so we have our BTT chase player. It's called behavior tree because it's a behavior tree task. So you typically want to call whatever it is with these little letters so that you know exactly what it is. So BTT for behavior tree tasks, BTD for behavior tree decorators, and BTS for the behavior tree services. You don't have to. It just helps me understand it, exactly what the thing is. So we can go back into our behavior tree now. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag off this. And we should now have, under task, you'll see the task that we just created, which is BTT chase player. Just going to click that. I did not save it, so let me save it. Has a nice indicator there to tell me that I didn't save it yet. Holy crap, this thing is big. Do I need to reload this? Let me just... All right, it's still telling me, so I'm just going to do that. And it stopped telling me now. All right, so, and then we're going to drag off of this, and we're just going to get a simple move to. So obviously I didn't add any logic into our chase player yet. We'll come back to that later. We'll add actual logic into it. But right now I'm just gonna leave these things here. Let me create some space here. A little bit more space. Cool. Now we need a new task for the patrol thing. So let's just click on the new task, and I'm going to just pick one, and I'm going to rename it BTT underscore, and this is going to be our patrol, so I might as well call it find random patrol. Find random patrol. So I'm going to save that, and that's going to open up a new BTT, which we will come back to and add actual logic to it. Drag down here, and you'll see that it's newly added. Let me make sure I save this thing first. And then let's click on find random patrol. So now we have find random patrol in our graph. And then we're going to get a simple move to on the other side. Move to is one of the default ones, so we don't have to make it ourselves. All right, so now we can, let me get even more space. Let me just separate these things a little bit more. All right, so I am going to drag off here and get a wait timer. Wait timer, and I'm going to make the wait timer 4 seconds and a random deviation of 1 second. And what that means is that the wait time is anywhere going to be between 3 and 5 seconds. So, I mean, if you want it to be slightly random at which it'll start patrolling again, you might want to add deviation. This is like the indicator is a plus or minus 1. So with that, the framework for the behavior tree is complete. All right, so chapter 4, we're going to set up the task setup for the chase player. So we have our behavior tree task already. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click, and then we're going to get an execute receive execute AI. And the other thing is going to be casting to the enemy that we created, enemy character. Okay, so we did that. Let's go back into the enemy character here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable for the changing speed. So let's first create a function here. So I'm going to add a function by hitting this plus next to the functions here. So now I have a new function. And in this thing, I'm going to call it enemy movement speed, or update walk speed. So in this update walk speed, I don't know why this is auto-possessed on the side here. Under inputs, we're going to add an input into here. And it's going to be a float. So add a float here. And then we're going to rename this to new walk speed. All right, so what that does is it adds the variable to the node itself. So now I can grab a character movement now. So I'm just going to drag this character movement onto the graph. And then we're going to drag off of here and we're going to set the max walk speed. So I'm just going to set max walk speed. I'm going to drag this onto here, the execution pin, onto this one. And then we're going to attach this new walk speed to the max walk speed. All right, so now back into the BTT chase player. We can now pull off of this and we're going to be able to get an update walk speed because we just created it in the enemy character. Wait, let me compile and save this. All right, so now update walk speed. And the new walk speed, we're just going to put in a number here. So like 500. Once you've updated your walk speed, you're going to want to finish execute. So finish execute. And then we also want to do a finish execute over here. We're going to put Control D. So this one, you're going to want to check with a success, and this one you're going to want to leave blank. And what this does is if the control pawn is not the enemy character, we need to handle this in some way. So we have to create these things here. So if we mark that the task is unsuccessful, it'll abort the task. So if I right click on this and I promote this to a variable, it'll call it new walk speed. I'm going to rename this to chase speed. And for the chase speed, I need to make sure that it's instance editable. And by promoting it to instance editable, the value of the walk speed can be set from outside of this blueprint and will be available as a property inside of our behavior tree. So make sure you check instance editable on here. So let's go back to the actual graph where you can actually see that happening. So wait, let me make sure I compile and save it. Go in here. And now if you go to the details panel where I'm going to be doing chase player, you're going to see chase speed pop up here under default. So you got to highlight the chase player and it'll pop up over here. And so now you can change the chase speed. And so I can hit 500 here for the chase. Really, that's all you have to do to make it chase the player. All right, chapter 5. Okay, now our next task setup is going to be for our find random patrol. So let's go into our BTT, find random patrol. And we're pretty much going to set it up very similar to the last thing we did. So we're going to get an event, receive, execute. Did I spell receive wrong? EI, okay. Receive, execute, AI. Like we did last time, we're going to cast to the enemy character. Enemy character, like we did last time. And this time, we're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to get the update walk speed. Update walk speed. All right, I'm going to right click on here and I'm going to promote this to a variable. And then I'm going to change this to, I'm going to call it patrol speed this time. Patrol speed. And same thing with the last time. You want to change it to instance editable. And we're going to set the default to, I'm going to set to 125. And what we're doing here, we're lowering the enemy movement speed while patrolling. Off of controlled pawn, we're going to get the actor location, and then we're going to get a random, get random reachable point and radius, random location and navigable radius. There's a point. I think it's point. Get random reachable point and radius. Okay. So get a random reachable point and radius, and then the radius is going to be the patrol radius. So I'm going to promote this to a variable, and this new variable here is going to be called patrol radius. And then I'm going to hook this condition up to a branch. All right, for this patrol radius here, what we're gonna do for this is we're going to make the patrol radius, let me compile and then save it. We're gonna set it to 1,000. And like the other things, we can make it instance editable, so we can edit it in our behavior tree. And what this will allow us to do is find a random location within 1,000 units of the enemy character's current location. So we are using that branch node over here to handle the edge case that a random point to move to isn't found. Off of true, we're going to get, well, let's grab off this thing here, the set random reachable point and radius, and we are going to set Blackboard value as a vector. And I'm going to attach this here. And the key that we're going to make here is going to be, we're just going to call it patrol location. And then we're going to also get one for the false. So we can actually just duplicate this. If you highlight this thing and you press Control or hold down Control and press D, you can duplicate things. So this up here under false, we're going to hook it up into here. And then we're going to hook this random location also into here. And what we're going to do is we are going to finish the execute. Finish execute. And then you got to check mark this, because if you leave it unchecked, it's going to be false. So what this does is if the enemy finds a random position to move to, it'll be stored in the Blackboard as a location to move to. And if a location is not found, use its current location and stay put before trying to move to the to a new location. Now the one last thing we have to do is, in case the cast fails, we need to make something for this. So under cast fails, we can just put in finish execute. And then leave this unchecked. So here, if the controlled pawn is not the enemy character, the task will be marked as unsuccessful and it will be aborted. Okay, time for setting up the AI controller. So in this step, we're going to be setting up, well, the controller for the enemy that we're creating. So in the content drawer, we need to go grab the enemy controller. And I'm going to open the full blueprint editor here. Let me just dock this up here. All right, so I'm going to delete all this. So what we're going to first do is we're going to get event on possess. So event on possess. We want it to take over the Blackboard that we created. So we're going to set up a behavior tree here. So let me just grab over here, behavior, run behavior tree. And then in here in the drop down menu, we're gonna pick the behavior tree that we made, which is the only one on our list for here if you didn't create any other ones. Yeah, so then in the components here, we want to add, and we want perception. And perception essentially is the AI stimuli. So it has like sight, hearing, other stuff. But it essentially allows them to detect the enemy with their senses. All right, so here on the right side here, we want to click the plus icon here for the senses. And then we're just going to pick sight, because if the enemy sees the player, we want them to chase us. So we just need to do that one. And then for the dominant sense here, I think we just put, actually, wait, let's see, sense here. Implementation AI site. Okay, so this is all good. All right, but here, if you click the detection by affiliation here, you want it to click detect neutrals. For the player, actors by default are seen as neutral. So in order to chase the player, you need to check the detect neutrals. If you scroll down here, so on target perception updated, we are going to click this one. And then we are going to make sure that what we are chasing has a tag. So I'm just going to put actor has tag, and that tag that we're creating is going to be player. Off of this stimulus pin here, we're going to drag off of this and hit break AI stimulus, and then we can detect based on successfully sensed is what we want. Click the drop down, and then for the Boolean here, the one Boolean on here, we're going to drag off this, and we're going to make it an and Boolean. And then I'm going to attach the actor as tag. So it needs to have, the actor needs to have the tag, and it also needs to be successfully sensed in order for this to go. And this is going to be hooked up to a branch to determine whether it is true or false. And under the false here, we are going to start setting the timer by event. So let me set timer by event. And then we're going to promote this to a variable here so we can use it later. And essentially this is going to be the line of sight timer. So once it loses line of sight, this timer is going to start. Let me compile this and save it. And what we're going to do is I'm going to set the line of sight timer to 4 here by default. And the variable associated with this is how long it takes until the NPC gives up on chasing the player. Right click and promote this to a variable so we can use this later. I am going to rename this to enemy timer. Store that in the variables for later, and then we are going to create a custom event off of this. So custom event, and that custom event is going to be starting the enemy timer. So we're just going to put start enemy timer. And then we want to right click anywhere, and we're going to get the Blackboard. Get Blackboard, drag off of this Blackboard, and we're going to set a value as a bool and set a value as an object. And those two things are going to be from the, well, let me just show you. Let me set the value as a bool. And we're going to set the value as an object. we're gonna attach these. And then here we're going to get the keys. So I'm gonna promote these both to variables. Oops, there you go. Compile and save. For the first one here, it's going to be our has line of sight. And what you should do is record it exactly the way it looks like in your Blackboard here. So I'm just gonna F2, Control C, and then I'm gonna go back, and then I'm going to paste this in the key name. That's the important part, but I'm also gonna rename this so I know exactly what I'm talking about. So has line of sight. And then the same thing for the enemy actor. Control C, and then go back over here, and we're going to Control V and compile and save it, and then go back in here, and then Control V. So now we have the enemy actor in here. Now let's go up here, and then off of true, we need to continue off of this. We want to clear and invalidate this timer. We're gonna need to grab the Blackboard for that. So this thing. So we're gonna just get the enemy timer, which we saved for rainy day, and we're gonna get to clear and then invalidate timer by handle. Attach that here. Compile and save it. When the AI sees the player, it's going to clear and invalidate the timer until it loses sight of the player. And we want that so it'll reset the timer consistently. So if it's still chasing you, it still sees you, you don't want the timer to start going because it still has you in its visual. And then once it loses sight, then it'll start the countdown. And then once it's done with the countdown, it will start patrolling again because it's lost you for the amount of time necessary for it to start patrolling. And then we're just gonna take what we did over here, and we're just gonna copy and paste them. So I'm just gonna control click to unselect things. Well, either select or unselect if you already have it selected. So I'm just gonna do that, and I'm gonna press Control D, and that's going to duplicate everything up here. Now let me make more space for myself. Let's do that, attach this here. And now we have this here, and instead we're going to make Boolean true because you are going to have line of sight. And yeah, we only need to set that there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab off of this. Let me reduce this panel. We're going to grab off of this, and we're going to attach it to the set value as object underneath the true branch, not the one down here. And then we just compile and save it, and we should be good with that part. All right, final step we have, which is going to be the decorator, creating the decorator on top of all the other things we need to do, little micro things. So we're going to be setting up this decorator in our behavior tree in order to determine whether to do things based on the conditions that we're going to create. So let's do this first, because we created for the, let me go into my third person character. So for the third person character, we made it so that things with the player tag will be targeted, but our character doesn't have the player tag yet, so we actually need to add that in the details panel. Let's see. Now, what should I look up? So tag. So what we're gonna do is we're going to add a tag to the player. So you can see over here where it says actor advanced, and then there's tag here. We are going to name it player in the exact same way that we made it in the graph, otherwise it's not going to work. So compile and save that, and we should be good for that. Now we need to go into the enemy character. We need to go into the details panel over here and use controller rotation yaw, so that when it is supposed to be facing the character with the face BB entry that we have within our Blackboard, it'll actually rotate properly. So let me go back into this behavior tree here. So I'm going to go to where it says to chase the player, and this is the point where we're going to be adding the decorator. So we're going to go down to where it says add decorator, and then we're going to click Blackboard. And maybe I should go over these two different things. So you'll see that you have a decorator, and then you have a service. So what the decorator is going to do is going to create a condition on top of this node here, and it's going to determine whether this and everything else can be executed. The service is essentially just creating kind of like a check and updating the Blackboard. That's pretty much all it is. So we are going to use this Blackboard decorator that we've just created to determine the value of the Blackboard key and determine whether it's valid, so whether to allow the rest of the branch to execute. So under here, where you can make sure you have this highlighted, and you'll see it in the details panel over here, and we are going to set the conditions for this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set this to both, and then for the key inquiry, we are going to determine whether it has the line of sight. It's going to be is set. And then the last thing, we're just going to rename it, because right now it's just called Blackboard base condition. This is going to be has line of sight, question mark. This doesn't affect anything. This is just for naming. And then you can see here, it tells you exactly what it does. So essentially, nodes aborted by mode be the lower priority ones. Nodes aborted by mode self. So what we're stating here is that if when the has line of sight value is set or is true, it executes this chase branch. If the observer aborts the setting of both states, that when the Blackboard we assign changes, it's going to abort the whole chase player and any of the lower priority tasks, which means that when the value of the site changes and is not set, it's going to abort self, and then it's going to go to the next branch, and then it's going to start patrolling. And then when the has line of sight changes again and it becomes is set, aka has seen something, the observer is going to abort the patrol, and then it's going to start chasing. And that should be all that we need for that. Alright, let's see how this goes. So I'm going to hit play, and it's probably not going to work because I probably messed up quite a few things. So I put play, and it's immediately not patrolling. So let me go in front, and it is chasing the player. Okay, so my error, where my error is going to be related to the patrol. So what did I mess up with the patrol? So this part isn't part of the script. This is me just messing things up. All right, so first thing first, so we know that it has to do with the control, or it has to do with this setup here. So what am I missing here? So if I click on here, I have a patrol speed of 0. That is one error. So let's make this like 120 or something, 150, whatever. So I made the patrol speed 150. Another thing, I have this going to move to enemy actor instead of patrol location. So it's not patrolling anywhere. This is missing the key for the location. So let me go in here. And I did not make this instance editable. So let me check that so I can actually make this instant editable. Get random. Okay, this needs to be here. Because on false, I'm setting this current location as the Blackboard value as the vector. On false. Compile and save that. And I can see it right here. Enemy actor is not the patrol location. Patrol location is going to be the patrol location. So let's see how that works. So if I hit play here, he is patrolling. He does not see me because he went to the left. He's going to stop for like 3 to 5 seconds. It's going to go to the wait timer, which is 1 second, and then it's going to do whatever action after that. Okay, so now that he sees me, he's seeing me. Now that he's seeing me, he sees me. I'm going to jump off this thing, and I'm going to miss incredibly. But maybe I can get away. And then he goes back to patrolling. So now he's back to patrolling. And he's probably going to find me in a second. Maybe not. All right, he's going to stop right there. And then he's going to move again. And yeah, I think that worked. So yeah, so for when it comes to fixing bugs, I should have done this where I pulled this up. Here, let me put this on the side here. This is a great way to see where your problems are occurring. Because right now you can see that he is patrolling. And then he's doing the move to. And so this gives you like a nice visual of exactly what's happening here. So it's going back from patrolling, move to, and then to the wait. Oh, and he's seen me, so now he's doing this stuff. So if I look back at the graph, he is facing me and he's doing this stuff and it's activating this. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole documentation for the behavior tree stuff. And I hope that's helped you guys. And I hope it helped by giving more of like a video tutorial so you can actually get a visual of it. As you can see, even with me doing it, I made some mistakes, which I was able to correct those mistakes because I knew exactly what the issues were, because it's easy to pinpoint when you know exactly what the problem is. You just have to go to the areas where you're having those issues, and then it essentially fixes itself. So yeah, thank you for watching. Yeah, bye.